Grace's hand trembled as she held the orphanage director's business card. The entire upscale Manhattan restaurant had fallen silent except for one sound, the heartbreaking sobs of a small boy who refused to eat. She glanced toward the private corner booth where every server had been explicitly warned not to approach under any circumstances. The child's cries grew louder, more desperate, and she watched as the man holding him, a devastatingly handsome figure in a charcoal suit with eyes like winter storms, looked more lost than any powerful person should ever look. Their eyes met across the crowded room. His were dark, exhausted, pleading. Before her manager could stop her, Grace's feet were already moving toward the forbidden table. She didn't know that the man was Gabriel Russo, the most feared mafia boss in New York. She only knew that no child should cry like that. If you want to discover how a waitress with nothing became the woman who conquered everything, subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments where you're watching from. Part 1. The girl nobody chose. The graduation cap felt heavy on Grace's head as she stood in the auditorium, surrounded by families celebrating their daughters. She was 22 years old, top of her class at community college, the first person from her orphanage to earn any degree at all. Her hands clutched her diploma so tightly the edges crumpled. She'd saved one empty seat in the audience, just one, hoping against hope that maybe this time would be different. The seat remained empty. Grace had grown up in St. Mary's Home for Girls in Brooklyn, one of 43 children rotating through a system that had no time for dreams. She'd learned early that survival meant being invisible, that wanting things only led to disappointment, that family was something other girls got in storybooks. After the ceremony, she stood alone in the parking lot, watching families take photos, fathers hugging daughters, mothers crying proud tears. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sandra, the orphanage director. Sorry couldn't make it. Budget meeting ran late. Congrats on graduating. You're officially aging out next month. Need to vacate your room. That was it. No celebration. Just a reminder that she was too old for the system, and she needed to disappear. Grace sat in her 15-year-old Honda Civic and cried until she had no tears left. Then she did what she always did. She wiped her face, straightened her shoulders, and decided to survive another day. But something hardened in her chest that afternoon. A small, burning coal of determination that whispered, if nobody will ever choose you, then you'll become so undeniable they'll have no choice but to see you. Part 2, The Invisible Woman. 2 years later, Grace was 24 and completely exhausted. She worked 3 jobs to survive. Morning shift at Mel's Diner in Brooklyn from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., serving truckers who left dollar tips. Then she'd rush home, shower, and sprint to catch the subway to Manhattan for her evening job at Bellissimo, the most exclusive Italian restaurant in the city. She'd work until midnight, arriving home around 1 a.m. The grease stains on her diner uniform wouldn't come out. The exhaustion carved permanent shadows beneath her green eyes. Her blonde hair was always pulled back so tightly it gave her headaches. Grace had applied to 43 social work positions in 2 years. 43 rejection emails. Not enough experience. Position filled internally. Thank you for your interest. Nobody wanted to hire an orphan with a community college degree and no connections. Grace's network consisted of Christina, her roommate, and 2 coworkers. That was her entire safety net. Some nights, Grace stood in the shower and let the water wash away the humiliation of being invisible, of serving people who never made eye contact, of being 24 years old with nothing to show except exhaustion and bills she couldn't pay. But she never quit. Survival wasn't pretty. It was getting up every morning even when your body screamed at you to stop, choosing to exist for one more day, and then another, until maybe those days added up to something that looked like a life. Grace was so invisibly, achingly tired. And then, on a Thursday night in late October, everything changed. Part 3, The Boy Who Wouldn't Stop Crying at 9:30 p.m., the massive oak doors of Bellissimo opened and silence rippled through the restaurant. Grace looked up from pouring water and felt her breath catch. 6 men in black suits entered first. Then he walked in, tall, devastatingly handsome, with dark hair and amber eyes like whiskey. The charcoal suit fit him perfectly. A small boy clung to his neck, sobbing. "Modio," Marco whispered beside her, pale. "That's Gabriel Russo." "Who is he?" Grace whispered. "Just stay away from that table. Do not approach. Understand?" But Grace was already watching the child. The boy couldn't be more than 3, dressed in tiny dress pants, devastated. As his father tried to set him down, the child's whimpers turned to full-throated wails. "Luca, per favor," the man's voice was deep, desperate. "Papa needs you to be brave." The boy's cries only intensified. Grace's heart twisted. She knew that sound: grief, loss, the crying of a child who'd learned too young that the world could take away the people you loved most. She'd made that sound herself when she was 6. Gabriel Russo tried everything. He offered food, promised gelato, pulled out toys. Nothing worked. The child screamed like his world was ending. Grace watched the powerful man crumble, holding his son close, shoulders curving inward protectively. Something in that gesture cracked something open in Grace's chest. She'd taken 2 steps toward them before her brain caught up. "Grace!" Marco hissed, grabbing her arm. "Stop!" She didn't stop. The bodyguards blocked her path. "Miss, step back." "I just want to help," Grace said quietly. "Let her through." Gabriel Russo's voice cut through the noise. The bodyguards parted, and Grace approached the table, heart hammering. Up close, Gabriel was overwhelming. But Grace focused on the child. "Hi there," she said softly, crouching to eye level. "My name is Grace." Luca's sobs stuttered. He peeked at her from his father's shoulder, little face red and streaked with tears. "That's a lot of big feelings for such a little guy," Grace continued gently. "It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry." "Per favor," Gabriel said, desperation raw in his voice. "He's been like this for weeks. Nothing helps. The doctors say he's grieving, but I don't know how to fix this." Grace's eyes met his, and she saw it. Matching grief, barely controlled. The exhaustion of a man who could control everything except his son's pain. His mother, Grace thought. He lost his mother. "Luca," Grace said softly. "Did you know that when I was a little girl and felt really sad, I used to count stars? Even though I was inside, I'd imagine them, one by one, until I felt a little bit better." The crying reduced to hiccups. Luca was watching her, curious despite tears. "Your papa looks really strong. I bet he could hold you up high enough to touch the ceiling. But first, you have to take a deep breath with me. Can you do that? Breathe in," she demonstrated. "And out." Luca copied her. His breathing steadied. The crying stopped. "You miss someone, don't you?" Grace said quietly. Someone really, really important. Luca's face crumpled, but he nodded. It's okay to miss them. That person loved you so much, didn't they? That kind of love lives right here forever. Grace touched her chest. Until it hurts a little less, you've got your papa. Think he could give good hugs? Luca looked at his father, uncertain. Gabriel's voice cracked. The best hugs, Piccolo. I promise. The boy reached for her. Grace held out her arms, and Luca jumped into them, wrapping his arms around her neck with a shuddering sigh. Grace's eyes burned. She rubbed circles on his back, swaying gently. It's okay, sweet boy. I've got you. When she looked up, Gabriel was watching her with an expression she couldn't name. Hunger. Hope. Something that made her skin flush. What's your full name? He asked. Grace Mitchell. Grace Mitchell, he repeated. How did you do that? I just understood what he needed. And what does he need? To know someone sees his pain. That it's okay not to be okay. Something shifted in Gabriel's expression. I need you, he said simply. To help with Luca. Name your price. I'm not for sale. His lips twitched. Everyone has a price, Grace Mitchell. I have 2 jobs already. And I'll pay you more than both combined. Triple it. Triple her income. That was life-changing money. That was finally being able to breathe. I'm not a nanny, she said, uncertain. You're whatever you need to be to survive, Gabriel said, and the accuracy stole her breath. I understand that. My son needs you. And I protect what he needs. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it was a promise. Luca had fallen asleep against her shoulder. Grace looked down at him and felt something click into place. I'll think about it, she whispered. Gabriel pulled a card from his jacket, heavy black cardstock. Just a phone number. You have until tomorrow morning, he said. Their fingers brushed, and electricity shot up her arm. Don't make me wait too long, Bella, he said. I'm not a patient man. He stood, gently taking his sleeping son. For a moment, they formed a strange tableau, the Mafia Boss, the Waitress, and a sleeping child between them. Then Gabriel Russo walked out, and Grace stood frozen, the black card burning in her pocket. She didn't know that by tomorrow, everything would change. She only knew that when Gabriel Russo looked at her, she'd felt seen for the first time in years. And God help her, she wanted to feel it again. Part 4, The Choice That Changed Everything. Grace didn't sleep that night. Christina had Googled Gabriel Russo and spent an hour showing her everything. News articles about alleged murders, extortion, racketeering. Photos of him at charity galas, always alone since his wife died. Whispered rumors about the Russo family's control over New York's underground. You're insane if you call him, Christina said. Grace, he's literally the mafia. He's a father who needs help, Grace said quietly. He's a killer. Grace thought about the exhaustion in Gabriel's eyes. The desperate love in how he'd held his son. Maybe he's both, she said. You're actually considering this. I work 80 hours a week and can barely make rent. I have no family, no connections, no prospects. I'm 24 years old, and I'm invisible. This man looked at me and saw me, Christina. When was the last time that happened? At 5 in the morning, Grace made her decision. She called the number. He answered on the first ring. I knew you would call. You sound very confident for someone who's been up all night, Grace said. A pause. Then a low laugh. Can't sleep either. Luca kept waking up asking for you. Called you the nice lady with the soft voice. Grace's heart squeezed. How is he? Better. Worse. He's asking when you're coming back. He doesn't understand that people don't stay. The pain in Gabriel's voice was raw. His mother left. Now everyone leaves. I have conditions, Grace said. I'm listening. I'll help with Luca 3 days a week. I keep my restaurant job the other days. And if at any point I feel unsafe, I walk away. No questions, no consequences. Silence stretched between them. You think I'd hurt you for leaving? I don't know what you'd do. That's the problem. Fair enough. I agree, with one addition. You don't walk away without giving me a reason. I can't fix what I don't understand. The vulnerability caught her off guard. Okay, Grace said softly. My driver will pick you up at 9. Wear comfortable clothes. Luca likes to play outside. Wait, today. You had all night to prepare, Grace. And I told you, I'm not a patient man. The Russo estate sat behind iron gates and stone walls. As they pulled through, Grace's jaw dropped. The mansion sprawled across an entire city block, stone facades, manicured gardens, a fountain that cost more than her existence. Rosa, the house manager, led her through rooms with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. They found Gabriel in a massive living room, sitting on the floor in his suit pants and white dress shirt, sleeves rolled up. Luca was having a complete meltdown, throwing toy cars while screaming. Gabriel looked up as she entered, and the relief on his face was painful to witness. Thank God, he breathed. He's been like this since he woke up. I'm failing him. Grace walked calmly into the chaos. She sat on the floor a few feet from Luca, not approaching, just being present. That looks like a lot of mad, she said conversationally. Big, huge, enormous mad. Luca threw another car. I get mad too, sometimes. Yesterday I was so mad at my broken refrigerator that I wanted to throw it out the window. But it was too heavy, so I ate ice cream for dinner instead. The screaming softened. Luca was watching her. Your papa looks pretty worried. See his face. That's his worried face. Grace demonstrated, exaggerating. Despite himself, Luca's lips twitched. I bet if you used words instead of throwing, he'd understand better. Want to try? Luca's face scrunched up. Mama, he whispered, voice breaking. Want mama? Grace's heart shattered. She glanced at Gabriel, who'd gone still, eyes bright with tears. I know, sweetheart, Grace said softly. I bet you miss her so much it hurts everywhere. Luca nodded, tears streaming. It's okay to miss her. It's okay to be sad and mad. Your mama loved you so much, didn't she? Another nod. She'd want you to remember her. To keep loving her forever. And she'd want you to be happy again someday. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday. Until then, your papa is here. Think he could give good hugs? Luca looked at his father, really looked. Gabriel's voice cracked. The best hugs, Piccolo. I promise. I'll never leave you. The boy launched himself at his father. Gabriel caught him, holding tight, eyes squeezed shut as his son sobbed against his chest. Grace watched this powerful man cry silent tears, and something in her chest cracked open. This was what love looked like. Messy and broken and desperately holding together. She started to stand, but Gabriel's hand caught her wrist. Stay, he said hoarsely. Per favor. Please. So Grace stayed, and somehow became part of something she'd never had before. A family. Part 5, The Transformation. 3 months passed like a dream. Grace fell into a rhythm. 3 days with Luca at the estate, 3 days at Bellissimo. The money Gabriel paid was obscene. Within 6 weeks, she'd paid off her debt, fixed her car, started a savings account. But money wasn't why she stayed. Luca was transforming. He smiled now, really smiled. He laughed. He'd started calling her, Gracie, in his sweet voice, and every time, her heart grew. They developed routines. Breakfast together while Luca told elaborate stories. Playing in the garden. Reading before nap time, his small body curled against hers. Grace had never been anyone's safe place before. Instead of terrifying her, it felt like coming home. And Gabriel was becoming a problem. He came home earlier now, joining them for dinner, sitting with them during bedtime stories. She'd catch him watching her constantly, when she danced with Luca, when she wiped juice off his chin, when she simply existed. The attraction between them had grown from spark to wildfire. One evening, after Luca slept, they stood in the garden as city lights glittered below. Gabriel handed her wine without asking. Their fingers brushed, electricity shooting up her arm. You're staring again, Grace said quietly. Can't help it. He'd had several drinks, defenses lowered. Do you know how long it's been since I felt anything besides rage and grief? Grace's pulse quickened. Don't, 8 months. He moved closer. Then you walked into that restaurant and looked at me like I was human. Not a monster. Not a boss. Just a father who needed help. You are human, Grace whispered. I'm a killer, Grace. I've done things that would make you run screaming. Then why haven't you told me? He laughed darkly. Because I'm selfish. Because I want you to keep looking at me like I'm worth saving. Everyone is worth saving. Careful, Bella. His hand came up, hovering near her cheek. That optimism will get you hurt. Especially around me. Grace should have pulled away. Instead, she leaned into his almost touch. I'm not afraid of you, she said. You should be. Why? Because you run a criminal empire. She met his eyes. I've seen you cut Luca's sandwich into dinosaur shapes. I've watched you panic over scraped knees. I've heard you sing Italian lullabies off-key. That's who I'm afraid of. His thumb brushed her lower lip. She gasped. Why would that scare you? Because that man makes me feel things I swore I'd never let myself feel. Makes me want things I have no right to want. Grace, he warned. I know this is dangerous. I know I should walk away, then walk away, he challenged, even as his other hand framed her face. Right now. Walk away, and I'll triple your severance. I'm not walking anywhere. Why? Because for the first time in my life, I feel like I matter. When you look at me, you see me. And I've been invisible for so long, Gabriel. I'm so tired of being invisible. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was months of grief and loneliness and desperate need. Grace melted into him, fingers tangling in his hair as he pulled her closer. When they broke apart, Gabriel pressed his forehead to hers. "This is dangerous," he whispered. "I know. You deserve better than me. I'll decide what I deserve." He pulled back, amber eyes blazing. "If you stay, you're under my protection. Completely. You understand what that means? That you'll keep me safe. That I'll burn the world down if anyone touches you. Once you're mine, you're mine." It should have scared her. Instead, warmth bloomed in her chest. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Make me yours." The kiss this time was slower, deeper, a promise being sealed. And when Gabriel pulled away, there was something new in his expression. Hope. Part 6, When the Past Comes Calling. Glass shattered somewhere in the house. Grace jolted awake in Gabriel's bed, disoriented. Then she heard the shouting. Gabriel was already out of bed, pulling on pants. A gun appeared in his hand. "Stay here," he commanded. "Lock the door behind me. Don't come out until I tell you." "Gabriel, stay. Here." He was gone. Grace sat frozen, heart hammering. More shouts. A woman screaming, "Rosa." Then the sound that stopped her heart, Luca, crying for his father. She was out of bed and pulling on Gabriel's shirt before her brain could override instinct. To hell with his orders. That child was crying, and every maternal instinct roared to life. Grace ran barefoot through hallways to the main foyer. 5 men in black masks had invaded. One held Rosa with a knife to her throat. Another had Luca, the boy screaming, reaching for his father. Gabriel stood at the staircase base, gun trained on the man holding his son. His face was carved from ice, but Grace saw the terror beneath. "Russo," one masked man said mockingly. "We've been waiting. You killed our boss's brother. Now we take what you love. Eye for an eye." The man holding Luca moved toward the door. The boy's screams intensified. "Papa! Papa, help!" Everything happened in slow motion. Gabriel raised his gun, but so did the other masked men, all targeting him. If he fired, they'd kill him, and then what would happen to Luca? And Grace did the stupidest, bravest thing of her life. She ran toward Luca. "No!" Gabriel roared. "Grace!" Gunshots exploded. Grace felt something hot tear across her arm, but she didn't stop. She reached Luca, ripping him from the masked man's grip with pure maternal fury, and threw herself to the marble floor, curling around the boy's body as more gunshots thundered. She felt Luca's heart hammering against hers, his small hands clutching her shirt, his tears against her neck. She pressed him close, making herself a shield, thinking, "I won't let anyone hurt you. Not while I'm breathing." The gunfire stopped. Gabriel's security team had taken down the intruders. Bodies lay on the marble. Rosa was being helped up, shaking but alive. Then strong hands pulled Grace up, and Gabriel was there, face white, blood splattered across him. Grace, his voice cracked. You're bleeding. She looked down. Blood soaked the sleeve, but Luca was unharmed, whole, safe. I'm okay, she said. He's fine. Look, he's fine. You could have been killed. Gabriel's hands shook as he pulled them against his chest. Madonna Santa, Grace, you could have been killed. So could he. But you, he couldn't finish. His arms tightened until Grace could barely breathe. You beautiful, stupid, brave woman. I told you. I won't let anyone hurt him. Not while I'm alive. Paramedics arrived. Police came and went without questions. As a doctor bandaged Grace's arm, just a graze, incredibly lucky, she watched Gabriel hold Luca, whispering in Italian, checking every inch to verify he was unharmed. When he finally set the boy down with Rosa, Gabriel turned to Grace with an expression that stole her breath. He crossed to her in 3 strides, framed her face, and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with tears. You saved my son, he whispered. You put yourself between him and bullets. Anyone would have, no. His grip tightened. No one else would have. You didn't hesitate. You just ran. He needed me, Grace said simply. What else would I have done? Gabriel stared at her like she'd performed a miracle. I love you, he said, words tumbling out rough and desperate. I know it's insane. I know it's too soon. But watching you almost die made me realize I can't breathe without you. I love you, Grace Mitchell. I'm terrified of it, but I love you. Grace's heart stopped, restarted, soared. That's terrifying, she breathed. I know. And insane. I know. And I love you too. His smile was blinding, transforming his face from beautiful to devastating. That's even more terrifying. I know. They laughed, and it felt like release, like joy, like something breaking open that had been locked too long. Stay, Gabriel said, holding her face. Not as an employee. Not as Luca's nanny. As my partner. As his mother, if you'll have us. Stay and build a life with us. Luca appeared in the doorway, Rosa behind him. He toddled over, his face worried. Gracie okay? He asked, touching her bandaged arm gently. I'm okay, baby, Grace said, pulling him into her lap. Just a little scrape. Gracie stay. The hope in his voice could have powered cities. Grace looked at Gabriel. He looked at her. Everything she'd ever wanted crystallized into this, a man who saw her, a child who needed her, a family that chose her. Yes, she whispered. Gracie stays. Always. Always, she promised. Luca threw his arms around her neck, and Gabriel wrapped his arms around both of them, and Grace finally understood what home felt like. Not a place. People. This. Epilogue. The woman who became undeniable 3 years later, Grace stood in the garden watching Luca, now 6, play with his baby sister, Isabella. The little girl toddled after her brother, giggling. Mama, watch this. Luca called, doing a cartwheel. Beautiful, baby, Grace laughed. Mama. She'd been Mama since the wedding 2 years ago. But really, she'd been Mama since the night she'd thrown herself between Luca and danger. Strong arms wrapped around her waist. Gabriel's chin rested on her shoulder, his hands settling protectively over her stomach where their third child grew. Happy, he murmured. Impossibly so. They'd created a life together, messy, complicated, but undeniably theirs. Gabriel had stepped back from the most dangerous aspects of his business, focusing on legitimate enterprises for his children. For her. He'd never be entirely clean, that wasn't how their world worked, but he was trying. Grace had finished her bachelor's degree and was working on her master's in social work, specializing in helping children in foster care. She'd turned her pain into purpose. Gabriel funded 3 new orphanages in her name, and Grace volunteered weekly, being the person she'd needed as a little girl with no one to choose her. Luca ran over and crashed into their legs. Isabella followed, and Gabriel scooped them both up, making them squeal with laughter. Grace watched her family and thought about that night in the restaurant when a little boy wouldn't stop crying. She'd walked toward danger without thinking. She'd said yes to love without hesitation. And it had given her everything. She'd learned something powerful: you don't need anyone to choose you first. You can choose yourself. You can decide you're worth saving, worth fighting for, worth taking up space in the world. Gabriel had chosen her, yes. But first, Grace had chosen herself. She'd chosen to walk toward that crying child. She'd chosen to call Gabriel back. She'd chosen to stay despite danger. She'd chosen to run toward gunfire to save Luca. She'd chosen love over safety, connection over self-protection, vulnerability over walls. And that had made all the difference. Now, standing in this garden, Grace understood something she'd never believed possible as a lonely girl in that orphanage: you can be chosen. You can build a family. You can transform from invisible to undeniable. But it starts with choosing yourself first. I love you, Gabriel said. I love you more, Grace replied. Impossible. She smiled. Watch me. Their children played. The sun set. And Grace, the orphan, the waitress, the woman nobody chose, held her family close and marveled at the life she'd built from courage and love. Sometimes the best stories begin with a crying child and a brave choice. Sometimes the woman everyone overlooks becomes the one nobody can ignore. Sometimes, just sometimes, the girl nobody chose becomes the woman who has everything. Not because someone saved her, but because she saved herself first. This story is for every woman who's ever felt invisible. You're not. You matter. Your story isn't over. And the moment you choose yourself, truly, fiercely, completely, everything changes. If this story touched your heart, remember, you don't need permission to be extraordinary. You don't need validation to take up space. You don't need anyone to choose you first. Choose yourself. The rest will follow. Until next time, stay brave, stay bold, and remember, you are already enough.